here with us now, right on set. Look at him. He's right here. He's Democratic Congressman Gabe Amo of Rhode Island. Congressman, welcome back. Wanted to get your take on what Senator Johnson had to say about this whole conflama around tariffs that's going on right now. What's your take?
Well, look, I wish that Republican colleagues in both chambers would speak up and make sure that President Trump hears that the chaos and confusion of this past week has hurt the American people. Consumer confidence is at its second lowest recorded level ever since 1952. Prices have gone up on people. Our allies are deathly concerned, and even scarier, there's conversation about market manipulation because of who President Trump may have spoken with before he made his decision public. And in fact, the U.S. Trade Representative, in a hearing with the Ways and Means Committee in the House, did not even know that the rates were going, the increases were being paused. So this, boatload of chaos and confusion isn't good for anybody, and in fact is erratic and hurts all of the people across this country.
So Rhode Island historically is a tariff kind of state, right? You can go all the way back to the early manufacturing age, but Rhode Islanders, Republicans and Democrats have a long history of being pro-tariff. Now Democrats are having a little bit of a disagreement about, are Democrats free traders, are Democrats protectionists? Are you in the tariffs can be good as economic policy mode, or are you someplace else?
Well, look, I think you have to have strategy. What we have seen from President Trump is devoid of strategy. And in fact, we know that in a state like mine, in Rhode Island, I have folks in the costume jewelry manufacturing sector who benefit greatly from a trading relationship with China, with others, Vietnam, across the country, that helps them grow in our state. And so I don't think there's a disagreement amongst Democrats across what President Trump has done, which is brought forth chaos, wrought more fear, and driven our economy into a ditch, which has been the pattern over these past 80 days.
But as a precept, do tariffs constitute good can they constitute good long-term economic policy? I put the question to Senator Johnson, I put it to you. Is this a tool for diplomacy to get tariffs down and barriers down for more trade, or is it an economic policy that can help manufacturing in the United States?
It can help, but when you have a toolbox and you're working on a project, you use your tools wisely, and that's what I would advise. And I hope my Republican colleagues speak up and let President Trump know that it's unacceptable.
Okay, one of the things that the Republicans are gagging on right now is the question of the debt ceiling. Senator Johnson wanted it out of the package, and there's a substantial chance that it will not end up in the final reconciliation package. It may be too hard to do, which means that Republicans are going to come to you and say, hey, sorry about all of the disagreements before, but now we need you to authorize a debt ceiling lift because they won't have the votes to be able to do that. How do you look at the debt ceiling? Is it a tool for negotiation, or is it we have to keep the full faith and credit, and you can't negotiate around the debt ceiling?
Look, the fact of the matter is they may be pursuing this increase at the same time that they want to cut $1.5 trillion from programs like Medicaid, from SNAP, from all of the things that people in our country depend on to stay afloat. So they have to come to terms with the fact that if they want to talk to Democrats about anything, that misguided, boneheaded strategy that they have to enrich billionaires will not suffice. So I don't think you can disentangle those two, because you saw the dramatic actions that they took last week, cajoling members from every segment of their party just so they can work really hard to make it difficult for people to get health care in this country, for people to pay for food. So that is problematic and will be on the table for discussion.
And so you would negotiate around the debt ceiling?
Look, I think those negotiations, if they are slated to happen, are going to happen in a lot of pockets, but they cannot proceed with their strategy to hurt the American people at any cost.
Okay, Rhode Island is, there's a lot going on the immigration front in Rhode Island on sort of the two tracks. So you have deportations taking place, and there's a substantial Portuguese population in Rhode Island. There's lots of immigrant communities in your district. And then we have Brown University, which is getting zapped for the people who are there on student visas that the administration's taking out. What do you say about that, and what are you doing about that?
Well, look, we all know broadly we need to fix our immigration system. We need comprehensive immigration reform. But what you see Donald Trump doing is going forward like a king and arbitrarily deciding whether to comply with rulings made by courts. You know, they've admitted to a mistake in the case of the gentleman, Mr. Garcia from Maryland, who has been sent to El Salvador, and yet they are not moving with haste. This is not how our country's immigration system should work, with this arbitrary set of rules, the non-compliance with courts. This is part of the authoritarian streak that the president has put forward, whether he's targeting universities, law firms, or even individuals. When you look at Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor, it cannot stand. And so I encourage people to speak up and speak out. And we need to make sure that the courts are the final arbiter here, not a president who wants to be a king.
Okay. So this is my own hobby horse, and I apologize in advance, but I want you to listen to some sound from a different time about the courts.
The opinion of the American people on the Supreme Court is the lowest in modern times.
The Supreme Court and its right-wing majority is clearly out of control and out of step with the American people.
Okay, now it's Republicans trashing the courts, right? Now Republicans say that these courts are out of hand, and some are even encouraging, not many, but some are encouraging the administration to disregard lower court orders and do all of that stuff. My little hobby horse is, I understand that parties have different needs at different times and the issues are different, but is there a danger that if there is a bipartisan disregard or disdain for the courts, that when you need them to have the validity to keep the constitutional system in order, it's just not going to be there?
Look, it's my belief that we have to have our courts remain as impartial, as unimpugned by our politics as possible. But it is reasonable to call them out if they are acting inconsistently with the law. And that's the challenge here. When precedent is overturned, when there is lawmaking from the bench, that's a reasonable cause for concern. But I believe that we have to be deferential to their rulings, and I would hope that our president looks at these rulings and follows the letter of the law. We can't take any more lawlessness in this country.
Okay, now you are part of an interesting bipartisan success story here in Washington right now. You are teaming up with some Republicans to try to craft a bill to reinstate some USAID kind of funding that is getting some attention, getting some traction. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I am grateful to have in the state of Rhode Island a company called Judicial that provides ready-to-use therapeutic foods, RUTFs, that provides life-saving nutritional assistance to children across the world. Children under 5 die by malnutrition at a very high rate. And this product has helped save over 25 million kids across the world in over 65 countries. And it helps American farmers with the peanuts that they harvest
because they're
in 27
dense.
states.
Yeah,
exactly. And so this is the best of American leadership, right? We save children, we support farmers, we project our values. The packets of the nutritional assistance has the American flag on it. This is leadership that we cannot retreat from. And so I'm grateful that Republicans and Democrats should and can and will come together to make sure that companies like Judicial continue to do this great work.
So you're talking about peanut butter, so you're talking about Georgia, so you're talking about Georgia Republicans, so you guys are getting together to do this. You think you're going to get it through?
I think we're going to work as hard as possible. And you know, I've been a champion on many letters in the Congress since I've arrived. I had a press conference, a bipartisan one last week with folks. So we have to continue to lead the world, and feeding children is the best way to do it.
All right. If you've ever rooted on the Pawtucket Paw Sox, you would know him already. But if you don't, here he is, Congressman Gabe Amo. We thank you.